There's one thing about the human animal. If it has class, it has it. If it doesn't, you cannot give it to them.
This is The Law. Live audio wrestling with the latest news, info, and interviews from the world of pro wrestling, mixed martial arts, and the best of combat sports worldwide.
You broke the all-time record for the largest gathering of trailer park trash The Rock has ever seen.
I'm one of the biggest legends stars ever this. God! And your kids took that too tight too, Billy!
And I heard the news the next day. And I slept like a baby last night.
From time to time, we'll be bringing you what we feel were the best of our recent shows.
Like me or not, I didn't come up here to be liked. I came up here to get paid. And whoever you put in front of me, I'm going to drop you down.
Yeah. Dummy. Yeah. Dummy. Yeah.
I've had them down there on the dirt. I know what it's like to eat out of garbage cans, man. I know what it's like to sit there on the street and do nothing. I know what it's like to fight.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Tidwell and Brady Wetta.
It always really only means one thing, Brady, and that means that it's time once again for another episode of the Law Live Audio Wrestling right here on YouTube and all of your podcast providers, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and even over on Podbean. Go join it up. You know how to do it. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's nice to be back. It's even nicer to be here with all of you after a week off where I decided that I was going to take a trip back home. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, that was an interesting one. Brady, how was your week?
My week was fantastic. I apologize to the listeners or anybody that is our viewers. We did not let you know that we were taking a week off. It randomly happened. How was your flight, Chris?
Yeah. So here's what happened. My cousin's 50th was this past week, and I decided to go down there and check it out. So the whole thing starts off with me booking my trip from Friday to Friday, leaving from local airport so I don't have to go into the big city, right, and do all of that traveling. As opposed to going an hour out of my way, I got 10 minutes out of my way. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I booked this whole thing. The night when I check in before we leave, all of a sudden I get a notification that I finally noticed that said my flight coming home on the Friday after was no bueno. Instead, they were coming home on the Monday, and not the following Monday after the Friday. No, the Monday that was 3 days away. So they were going to try to cut my trip short for this, and they did not have another flight coming back. So the obvious choice was to cancel that trip, they said, and they could refund me that portion of it, which is only about, 300 and some odd change because you book one of those round trip deals in enough in advance and you get that. So then I had to book a way to get home from Las Vegas, and the only flights coming back that were cheap enough were going into Toronto with the same airline. I ended up having to spend an extra $300 just to do that on top of it. So now I'm up in what I've spent. And then we get to the part of the travel stuff. Oh, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen.
Was there some turbulence?
Well, not so much in the air as much as there was in the plane, if you know what I'm saying. So we start off with, they have one of these apps that, for your entertainment pleasure, you put it on your phone or whatever, that's the new thing now because there's no more TVs, right? Yep. No more of that drop down TV stuff. So you load this thing up. Oh, but don't worry about it. Don't bother doing that on the way down because this plane hasn't been equipped with that yet, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, if you wanted to get some hot food on the way down, no, you're not getting that either because we don't have any.
I was hungry, though.
This was all just on the way down. Now, getting down there, fine. The trip was fantastic. Got to go see the Grand Canyon again. It was fantastic. Got to go shoot some guns, go shoot some ARs, go shoot some 38s and some 45s. It was fantastic stuff. All of that. Come time to come back now. We're talking the following Friday, and I get pulling up to the airport. I get a notification saying, hey, your flight's being delayed 2 hours. I'm like, wow, that is just absolutely ridiculous, but we're already here because I've driven an hour and a half to almost 2 hours just to get here from where I was outside of Las Vegas. So we're just going to wait. About an hour into the waiting game, all of a sudden I get a notification saying, your flight has been canceled. So now we're stuck at the airport. The next flight out is going at 1:30 in the afternoon the next day.
Geez. Oh, my goodness.
So I have a choice. You can either get a hotel because it's weather issues, so they don't have to put you up in any kind of accommodations. You can sleep on the floor in the airport, right? Or you can go try to get a hotel or a motel or something like that. So I get on the phone to one of my relatives who works at one of the hotels down there. I'm like, hey, can you get me a room? He starts laughing. No, I can't get you a room, stupid. And we all kind of realize, oh yeah, it's March in Vegas. That's right. The NCAA tournament is happening and every room everywhere is sold out. So he says, hey, I get off at 1 o'clock in the morning. You can come, come back over here.
Wow.
Keep working, blah, blah, blah. Stay at his place. Shout out to my cousin Eric and the band, The New Waves, that he's in. Look him up. So he gets us back to the airport. We get to the airport. We load into this thing. It gets better. I booked my seats going back. I booked like 4F and 4D. So the person who's ever sitting in 4E in the middle, sorry about your luck, pal. But come to find out, there was only one empty seat on the flight coming back. The one in between us. So I thought to myself, this is going to be great. No problem. Come to order up some food. Guess what they don't have on the plane anymore? That's right, because their excuse was the plane sat overnight, so there's no hot food on the plane. Except for some cup of noodles. No,
you know what, though? As long as you have a bottle of water on the flight, you're good. It doesn't matter.
You should say something like that, because into the flight, when they start going around and they're like, hey, the beverages and snacks are going to be open for another 10 minutes or whatever. If you'd like something, let us know. Okay, can I get a bottle of water? Sorry, we're out of water.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're out of water. Oh. Can I get I don't know, can I get a Coke then at least or something? I don't even drink Coke. This was, for my wife. And she says, I'm sorry, we're all out of that too. Do you have a ginger ale? I think I just sold the last two.
Oh my God. So you were on like the dollar store flight.
It's also, here's another great one, just to tip the whole thing off. When it says to you, ladies and gentlemen, make sure your trays are in the upright position. Your seats are back forward, right? We're coming in for landing. That would have been good had the seats even gone back in the first place.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, before you completely break all of the energy that you have for the rest of the show,
You asked me how my flight was.
Brother. What was the name of the company that you flew with?
Ric Flair Airlines. Woo! Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Flair. None other than Flair and only Flair.
Did some dude come out with his robe and just open it up and dangle his dingle in your face?
I wish I would have been okay with that flight.
That'd have been better than not having any sort of nourishment.
Needless to say, I am not impressed with Flair Airlines right now, and they will be hearing from me to figure out how we can do that, because you know how much we travel, and I've got no problem with the people that were working on the plane. You can only work with what you're given. You know what I'm saying? It's the airline themselves that needs to make this right for some people.
So you've been back in Canada for less than 24 hours, and this is the attitude that you have, and this is the attitude that we're going to carry through the rest of the show. And we have a very, very, very special edition of The Law this week.
Yeah.
We're not going to be alone throughout the rest of the show. Once we go to commercial break and we come back, we've got some friends.
We got friends.
We got some friends. So we're going to do a roundtable. We're going to do a discussion about all the stuff leading into Wrestlemania, basically. So we're not just going to focus on Wrestlemania. We're going to focus on the whole leading down into the bottom of that little funnel there, and end off with Wrestlemania and what we think is going to happen. So when we get back from the break, we are going to welcome back to the Law. Basically, it was his show and still kind of is in when it comes to spirit and the way that we do things here. Big Daddy Donnie and We will also be welcoming back to the show, the lovely Grants.
Hugh Grant here?
No, Erin and Matt.
Oh, I would have been okay with Erin and Hugh.
Well, let's throw it off to the commercial that we love so much, because we only have another week of playing it before we've got to play something else just as ridiculous. But let's do this real quick. When we get back here, we will have the roundtable on the Law live audio wrestling.
Bitch Fest, March 1st to 30th. Make sure you have your passes to Bitch Fest, Toronto's most inclusive DIY punk fest. Bitch Fest delivers 14 shows at over 9 venues, featuring over 50 of the best indie punk bands touring today. Every weekend in Toronto this March is Bitch Fest. Follow at bitch.fest_Toronto on Instagram and get your passes today at fanatickets.com.
And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't got your tickets, go get your tickets now. You can do all of that. We are the Law Live Audio Wrestling. And as you can see, if you are watching this on YouTube, please go subscribe, share it with all of your friends, and you'll see all of these lovely faces and the three below us. Joining us first is none other than, you know what? Let's turn some names on here. Just to make sure.
Do we have names in here?
Yeah. Hey, there we have names of everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Joining us first to my south, none other than one half of my hosting team from the Godfathers of Podcasting, and the man that started all of this, alongside of me back in the day. I'm talking about Big Daddy Donnie Da Silva. If I'm going to the southeast, southwest, it doesn't matter. They're off over into a corner. I'm talking about none other than Erin and her skinny boyfriend, Matthew Grant. Or wait, you guys are married now, aren't you? Yeah, that's crazy. Young kids.
This is why I'm a Grant.
Young kids. Fantastic. Donnie, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good. The man who smells like a big giant squid. I like to call him Tid.
Oh, look at him. He spent this whole intro time just writing down. That was his best.
No, I'm not writing anything. I'm just, it's just like over there, we have the sweet shiny little gem, Brady Wedham.
That didn't work,
right?
No, we got to go back to Danny O school, get some lessons.
Put on a pot of coffee. Let's workshop that one again, okay, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll work on it. How you guys doing? Thanks for
good,
having me.
Man. Good. Thank you so much, you guys, for all joining us. This is going to be kind of a full roundtable thing where we're going to talk about some AEW stuff, because we're in Toronto. I don't know if everybody here attended or not, but I want to get some answers to some questions. I know I did not attend because I was in Las Vegas at the time. So you guys are going to have to fill me in. We're going to talk some Wrestlemania. We're getting closer and closer to Wrestlemania. And I mean, everything is heating up so crazily. So we're not going to be doing some of the usual things like, the truth bomb with Big Daddy, but I'm sure that there's going to be some of that involved this week. Anyway.
No, it's all lies. I'm only going to lie. There's no truth this week. Next week, you get a truth bomb. This week, just lies.
Tremendous. Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this question first, because let's talk about some AEW. Okay. Erin, most importantly, you went to the event.
Yes, we were at the event.
Okay. I didn't ask if we were. I asked if you were.
Matt's taking
Yes, I was.
Episode.
He came along.
So what is it about AEW that intrigues you as a female fan, first of all?
I don't know as a female fan. I know for me personally, I didn't grow up on wrestling, so it's very interesting watching a company start from the ground up. Personally, I didn't get to experience that much with WWE. As a female, I do like the push that they do give to women's wrestling, particularly that, like, something that we even got to see while we were in Toronto was a pretty solid street tag match. And I feel like some of the women's street matches have been some of the goriest that I've seen in AEW. And I appreciate that kind of intensity and the moment that they give the women to have that. Generally speaking too, I just love the storytelling. Yes, I'm all for the hard hitting. I'm all for the typical big meaty men slapping meat and all that. But at the same time, I do enjoy the actual time that they give to come up with stories. Whether they fully follow through or not still kind of depends. But as a whole, I appreciate that effort.
So Matt, I want to ask you this then, because we were just talking about stories. Let me get your take on this. Do you think, because of the main event that they had at this last Toronto show with Edge and Christian, it's no secret that they're both from Toronto or anything like that, but from what I saw when I was watching it from afar, you could not have booked this any more Canadiana than this thing was, right? Do you think, because you've been in the wrestling business for like a hiccup now, do you think that you can get away with that in any other countries? Like, you're not going to have it as prominent as and sticky as the whole Canadiana thing, right?
I think like the whole match, you even had like a hockey net set up and like paid in tribute to that. You had a hockey fight with Edge grabbing the Toronto Maple Leaf jersey and Christian being put on the Boston Bruins jersey. So like there was a whole ode to Canadianism right there. Could you get away with that otherwise? Yeah, absolutely. I think you could. Would it get the same pop and reaction that it did in Toronto? No way. Those guys had a fantastic match, considering the age and where they're at in their careers. And I think, like you said, I don't think we could have got any different of a match. And what a way to cap off a Dynamite in Toronto.
Donnie, let me ask you this, because he says, you probably couldn't get away with something like that anywhere else. Do you think that is a signification of the, I don't know, is there any more of like the furthered up fan base as the Canadian wrestling fan? You know what I mean? Like compared to like the American fan, like doesn't matter. It's like country first. I don't know. What is it? What is it to you?
And I will clarify, I watched at home. Shout out to my boy Jeff Raholman from 680 News. He actually invited me to the show, but I was on daddy duty, so that comes first. Right. So I watched on TV, and my thought when I saw, Adam Copeland come out in the full Maple Leaf gear, and then we do the hockey net spot that the Grants just mentioned and all that kind of stuff. He shoots, he scores, and throwing Christian into the net. What it instantly reminded me of was that show Wrestlers on Netflix, when Al Snow got hot about wanting to do really regional stuff for the regional crowd to pop them, and then saying to the money mark, this is a TV show where the rest of the audience doesn't care about your little regional stuff.
Right.
So to me, if Adam came out in his Leaf jersey, cool, that's fine. You're pandering to the local crowd, then take it off and let's fight. After that, what are you saying to the rest of your audience outside Toronto and outside Canada as a whole? I think what you're saying is we're corny as hell and this is all we have. And it felt corny to me. It didn't feel like they were trying to appeal to the TV audience. It felt like they were trying to pop the people in the building.
That was kind of the effect that I got too, is it kind of felt a little corny because everything up to that point was a wrestling show. Right. And I get it. And it's because they're local guys, and finally Adam can get a win in Toronto because, I mean, how else was it? It's never happened.
Is this just an issue though, with like ever since the Brett angle that now Canadians, basically, if you're a Canadian person and you represent your country, that's your gimmick and it's stuck with you now? And when you go to Canada, they're just going to expect that Canadian kind of thing out of you. Like, isn't Edge's gimmick and Christian's gimmick at the base of it, isn't it that we're two Canadian boys?
But I mean,
the same was to his credit as a heel. Sorry, I was going to say Christian, to his credit as a heel, plays opposite of that. Like, he'll crap all 100%, over Toronto, and he's great at doing that. I will say though that in AEW specifically, they milk the hometown guy or hometown lady more than anyone I've ever seen before, to the point where nobody loses in their hometown ever, right? They will push it and set it up so that a heel is getting cheered in their hometown and they do nothing about it. They just sit there and soak it in. And to me, it's all antithetical to what we're supposed to be doing. Like we're going again for the in-house pop and we're ignoring the TV audience.
Matt.
And the other thing too is like these guys are in the middle of a blood feud, and like that kind of throws away from the entire match of like these guys are supposed 100%. To be at each other's throats, and now we're just doing kind of corny comedy spots.
Do you think it's because they're still in the stages of trying to gain acceptance? Like AEW is still in those growing stages, so they're throwing out this corny stuff because they think it's going to get them, a handful more shekels or a handful more fans or whatever. But the bigger question then, if that is the case, then I think they're short-sighted on it because TV is bigger than the one city, right?
And well, you even look at the difference of they ran the bigger arenas in Toronto the last time they were around. And now they're running the smaller arenas once again. So you're kind of seeing the decrease in AEW attendance and interest.
It's tax season.
I thought that was brilliant, to be honest with you. Running at the Coca-Cola Coliseum, I thought was brilliant. And I think that's what AEW should be doing for the next 18 months is only running buildings that are a max capacity of 5,000-6,000 people and work on selling those things out, because there's nothing that feels worse from a fan experience than going to a show in a building that holds 15, 16, 17,000, seeing entire sections tarped off, entire sections empty, and you're sitting there cheering for your favorite wrestler and looking around and going, there's nobody here. This isn't cool. Like that is such a lousy feeling as opposed to being in a small venue and everyone's going bananas. That's fun, and they have to get that mentality everywhere.
Yeah, that's the tribalism thing that goes along with being in a wrestling crowd though too, right? Because I can still watch wrestling at home without my pants on and have just as good a time.
As always.
Right. Let me ask you guys this. Eddie Kingston, is he the best Japanese wrestler that AEW has right now? Because
might be an argument you could make.
Cosplay.
Wow. This is the angle that they keep, he keeps working and shooting with, is that he's working all of these guys to establish himself, like to that throwback to that Okada, Misawa, kind of era, right?
I thought they were going to set him up to be like a New Japan killer until Okada just took his belt from him. But I think that's also setting up something bigger for Eddie. Like, I do believe Tony Khan is really invested in him for whatever reason. We all love Eddie for our own specific reasons, but Tony Khan, I think, has a different reason why he loves Eddie.
Matt, what do you think?
I think he's the most believable guy in terms of selling me on a match. When it comes to a main event picture, I don't know if that's Eddie Kingston. And that's where I'm kind of questioning where he goes going forward from here, because there's kind of that plateau, I think, with Eddie right now.
Erin, do you think that there is a plateau with Eddie Kingston right now? Or do you think that this is because you got to remember that wrestling kind of goes in peaks and valleys. You can't just keep climbing. You have to be humble enough to be able to like eat garbage for a few months, possibly, especially on TV. Are you a fan of Eddie Kingston? And if so, what do you think is going to be his next move then, if this is the case, right? What would you do with him if you're booking?
So I am a fan of Eddie Kingston. I back up what Matt says about just how authentic and real he is. And he doesn't care what people think of him. He's just going to put himself out there and fight hard. I think he has plateaued a little bit. I think there was kind of a lot of pressure put on with that Triple Crown championship and just what a prestigious moment that was. And then kind of what do you do with it? Like, we here all thought they were maybe unifying the belts, but no, that's not the case. He's now defending 3 separate belts. And then which one is most important? Where is he really supposed to be big champ? And is he supposed to be kind of ruler of all 3? It was just a lot. So I think we were talking about this in the crowd. None of us in the crowd were really shocked to see him lose. So I think for him, it's maybe repping Ring of Honor for a little bit. I don't know. He is kind of that main event guy, but I don't know that he can continue to hold that main event up at the Dynamite level.
So this brings me to my question for you, Donnie, and I want to get your opinion on this. Is all of this hard and heavy work that Eddie Kingston is doing right now, we both know there's no longevity in it. He's going to be, you know what I mean? But how much would you pull him back if you were booking this, how much would you pull him back to, not necessarily, give him a vacation or take him off of the books altogether, but I think we all agree that he has been working a very heavy load lately. What do you do with him?
I mean, I found it interesting when Brady said he thinks there's a bigger picture coming with an Eddie and Okada return. I didn't see that, only because there's not a lot of history of that in AEW. There's a lot of history of one and dones. So I didn't really anticipate that happening. I've always wanted to see them utilize Eddie in a way where it's like, playing off what you said to start, Tid. I would love to see him going up against a guy like Takeshita, and he's got Don Callis as his mouthpiece, and be like, hey, you big New Japan cosplayer, Takeshita's pissed off at you disrespecting the entire culture because you suck. That's good heat. And that would be fun to watch, and then turn it into a story. But they don't do stuff like that because, and Erin made a comment. She said, I don't think Eddie cares about it when anyone says. This is a guy that got into a little pull apart and got Sammy Guevara fired for calling him fat. He's fat. So, I mean, he does care what people think about him. He had his feelings hurt because he's fat. And, if you don't want to be called fat, stop being fat.
Oh, geez.
I do. I mean, let's just be honest. He had his feelings hurt. And I've never seen a fat wrestler get offended about being called fat, especially when it's in the context of a promo, for God's sakes. So I do think he's very thin-skinned, to be honest with you, even though he has the tough New York exterior. I think the course of action for him right now is kind of what Erin hinted at. I think the course of action is put him on Ring of Honor, let him be on top there for a little while, because I don't see where he fits in right now with the main AEW crew, whoever that is. I mean, it seems to be a constantly rotating deck of chairs, but I don't see where he fits there.
Well, while his name was mentioned, I got to get it out there, or we'll forget. Because we have so much we got to get through. But Sammy, what do you guys think about what's going on with him recently? Do you think is he gone? Like, is he getting fired for all this shit, or what?
Like, to me, it seems obvious that Tony Khan doesn't want to fire anybody. Like, he doesn't want to fire anybody, and he probably should fire Sammy Guevara. Like, by all rights, he's had what now, 2 or 3 suspensions? I think 3, right? He had a fight with Miro, he had a fight with Eddie, and he had the suspension for his comments about Sasha.
Yeah.
He's had 3 suspensions. What other job do you get disciplined 3 times and you still keep your job?
Weatherman.
It's touche.
Okay, yeah, I guess. Exactly.
To me, if I was them, I would, when they're ready to bring him back, when they think he's going to be on his best behavior, because it's going to happen. They're not going to fire him. Stop with this idea of Sammy loves Taya and Sammy's a sweetheart babyface. He's a jerk. Like, he's a jerk. Just lean into that forever. This is a career heel. Let him be a friggin' jerk. And that's it. Be done with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you can get a lot more out of him as well by doing this. I think that if you're not going to fire him, you have to lean into it, because we live in the world where this all exists, all of the internet and social media, and people are going to make their opinions and share their opinions and do stupid podcasts like this and talk about it. Like, this is really where we're at, right?
If the story that came out, though, is true, that the reason he was suspended for the injury to Matt Hardy is because the referee said to him, Matt is out, do not continue the match. And then he went and did his finish. I mean, I wouldn't even bring him back. I would fire him, because to me, that's just blatant insubordination and putting your opponent at risk. And rule 1, keep your opponent safe. So
it was Jeff. He did that too, right? Or was it Matt?
Oh, sorry, Jeff. I said Matt.
No, the only reason why I wasn't trying to correct you, I just was because in my head, for some reason, I remember seeing Jeff like 3/4 out, and he picked him up and just dumped him again, right?
No, I was thinking about a few years ago when he took Matt out by throwing a chair at his face. So he's taken out both Hardy Boys.
Oh,
do you think it's just he's low key trying to get fired? Or maybe he knows that, like you said, Tony Khan isn't firing anybody.
Yeah, I think he feels Teflon. I honestly think he feels indestructible. because where's the precedent? Other than CM Punk, who, if you believe the stories, Tony is still mad at Jungle Boy for putting him in that position. If you believe the stories that are out there, for letting go of their number one merch driver, you know, I don't think that Sammy has ulterior motives in terms of I'm going to get fired and go somewhere else. I think he's just a
Nobody's
young cocky
picking him
kid.
up.
Maybe it's hard to say. He could get signed by WWE and they put him on one of those ultra tight leashes. Like, you're going to behave. You're going to go live in NXT for a year and show us you can be a good soldier, or else, like, goodbye, because they don't need him.
And change his name to Sammy Gabaya. Out of here. She's full of them tonight, huh, ladies and gentlemen?
Yep.
Well done. I just came up with that on the top of my head. All right. Of
course you did.
I want to switch gears a little bit here. Not too much, though, but we are going to switch a little bit. And let's continue the topics of wrestling. Let's talk about how close we are to this WrestleMania XL 40, the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Couldn't have put it in a more violent place. You know, if we're talking about the history of professional wrestling, right? And at the top of this whole thing is a faction called the Bloodline. Now, out of all of these matches, I want to start with you, Erin. Out of both nights, because we know what the mains are supposed to be for night 1 and night 2. But when we're talking about some of the other matches that are taking place, you've got the Logan Paul match, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. You've got Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, right? Which is just as important of a bloodline match, depending on how you book it and where you put it. It could be very impactful come night 2 because of the stipulations that have been put down on the night 1 match, the tag match, right? You've got the everybody's going to die in a ladder match with Judgment Day and, you know, DIY and New Day and Awesome Truth. Like, it's, oh boy, that's crazy. Gunther, Sami Zayn, Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch, Io Sky and Bayley. Which one do you want to see the most? And everybody's going to answer this question. Which match do you want to see the most? And which match are you like, why is this on WrestleMania? Erin, I'm going to start with you.
So match I want to see the most has stayed the same for probably since it got announced, and that's the Uso versus Uso. I just think this is an example of, I feel like there's this weird no holds barred that happens with actual brothers, actual family, that they have been waiting for this match for quite literally all their lives. So I am very excited to see what they do with this and what sort of moments they're going to pull out, because it's just something, again, they've been waiting for so long that I'm really excited to see it come through. Match that I don't really care about, I feel bad, but my brain keeps going to Becky and Rhea Ripley, believe it or not, because I love both of them. I just don't think there's been enough care and build necessarily to it. Yeah, it's a good match, but I feel like we've seen it before, and it's, I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be a great match. I just kind of keep forgetting that it's booked.
Yeah, I think that's going to be actually one of the most underrated matches on this entire WrestleMania weekend, to be honest with you. So, you know, it's okay to be wrong, though. That's all right. Speaking of wrong, Matt Grant, what are your picks?
To reflect on the Uso versus Uso match, I'd be a little more excited for it. I just feel like anything outside of, obviously, everything regarding The Rock and the Bloodline and Cody is the main focus. There's no real build elsewhere. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the main event. It's the main attraction. However, it just feels like everything else is kind of there. In terms of a match that doesn't need to be there, that is there. I think you said it for yourself. The crazy tag team ladder match that's just going to be an absolute cluster. You know what? Yeah, it just has so much room for error. But when it comes to the Bloodline, I think, and everything The Rock is doing right now is just absolute money. There's no questions asked there. Everything that he presents on screen, you want to watch, you want to keep your eyes on. And I don't think anybody else has that effect in WWE right now. So shows you how much of a star The Rock is, Dwayne Johnson is compared to the rest of the WWE.
All right. Donnie? What do you think?
So I want to say first, I think that multi-team ladder match is going to be fantastic. And the reason I say it's going to be more than just a crazy spot fest, which it will be. But the reason I say I think it's going to be more than that, if you guys remember back to WrestleMania 39, remember that 4-team tag match that opened the show? It was money. That match was way better than it had any business being. And I feel like they are just so good at booking these multi-team matches and making them fun and compelling. I envision this match, as weird as it sounds to say this about a ladder match, I envision this happening early in the show to really get people like fired up. But I think it's going to be good. But it's not the one I'm most excited about. Other than Cody versus Roman, which honestly is the match I'm the most excited about, it would have to be Gunther and Sammy. Mainly because I think Gunther's the best worker in the world. And people, oh, it's Will Ospreay, it's Okada. No, it's not. It's Gunther. It is. And the reason it's Gunther is because he can work any style with anybody at any time. He doesn't need to do 500 moves to be compelling. I think his promos are Jeff's kiss. I think everything he does is old school to perfection. I love Gunther. And I think Sammy is the perfect underdog to face him. He doesn't have to win the title. He's over. And if he does, so what? I think I have no idea which way they're going to go with the finish. They could go either way and I'm still fine. I love the idea of that match. The one I couldn't care less about, and I'm probably going to go take a poo at this point, is Io Sky and Bayley. Io Sky is the most non-believable heel in the entire company. She is not authentic. She looks forced. She looks manufactured. That shot that they keep showing of her facing off where she's holding the belt, oh my God, like that looks like who swings a belt like that? There's nothing menacing about this 102-pound girl. And I just look at her and say, nah, like to me, as much as Sammy Guevara should never be a face, as much as Sammy should never be a face, she should never be a heel. That is a trademark baby face, and she is struggling in this role. And before it was okay because she had Becky to heel it up or Bayley to heel it up for her. So I just think that group is creatively floundering without Bayley, and I'm not really excited to see the match. They could have that match on SmackDown. I'd be fine.
Brady?
It's crazy. Actually, you can just replay what Donnie said. Not with this, how many different things that have already been announced. It's kind of weird that he pretty much kind of read my mind on everything. Obviously, I'm most excited for Cody versus Roman, right? Like that's the match that everybody needs to see. Like I did want to see The Rock versus Roman. I did think that was a money fight. I think Seth and Cody have a story to tell. Like I think there's a way to make everybody happy, but the route they've taken, obviously the best money route. Gunther. Anything with Gunther. He could be working anybody on the roster. That would be in a WrestleMania stage. That would be my second most anticipated thing. The least anticipation for me is Bayley and Io. And it's not because of the Io Hill thing on my end. It's because of Bayley. I think Bayley has slowed down so much now when it comes to work rate. I think she's a fantastic character. I think she gets great heat. I think if they were to even push the bar with her getting heat, she could go Don Callis territories and Vicky Guerrero territory. But I do feel her work in ring is starting to slow down. I don't know if that's injuries. I don't know what it is. She's been around for a minute, and people forget how long she's been in the business. She's been there since NXT basically launched its new platform when she was the Huggy Buddy and all this stuff. So I think some stuff is caught up. I would love to see her obviously go over on that stage because I think she deserves it for how much work and time she's put into the company. And but I do feel like that's a match that, we could probably go make some food for.
Yeah, I got to agree. It's such a shame that like all of us are in agreement, which means that, if the majority, even on this small numbers in that agreement, you have to believe that the majority of people out there are also in that agreement too, that, and that's not a knock on that match because on any other night, it's still going to be a great match. That just goes to show you all of the other stuff that's on the card. at this point. I think the one match that I'm really looking forward to, it's pretty predictable finish, what's going to end up happening at this point, but just to always see what he's able to do next, because he pops me every single time, is the 3-way match with Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. Because, I mean, listen, the fact that they threw Kevin Owens into that mix, was okay, cool, great. But, man, I was really stoked and still am just to see what kind of magic that Randy Orton can pull out of Logan Paul. Because Logan Paul's athleticism is what's really going to shine in a match like this, right?
Can I segue away from WrestleMania for a minute, just because you said Paul? Real quick, everybody's take. Let's do the same order as we just did on Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson coming up here in Netflix in the summer. Erin, what do you think?
You're asking the wrong person. I mean, both Paul brothers, I always have thought they're the kind of guys that they'll do whatever they put their mind to. They're just good at being who they are. They are good athletes and they will train so hard. So, I mean, I'm sure it'll be a great fight. People always love to hate Jake Paul, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I kind of haven't put much thought into it there.
Well, no, you just put more thought into it that Matt Grant has. Matt Grant, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely a lot more thought than I have in this. Mike Tyson boxing at this age is something I'm invested in. And then Jake Paul, like, he's obviously an athlete. He's obviously much younger, much more quick. I'm very intrigued to see how them two line up together. Does it last long? They'll probably get their money's worth out of it. I assume so. I'm not expecting like a crazy knockout or anything.
Donnie?
When I see the way that Jake Paul's been selling this fight with all the trash talk he's been doing online about Tyson, this makes me think of all those Gen Z kids that like to write crap on the internet, and they forget that sometimes someone's going to punch you in the mouth. And now the guy he's talking about is going to punch him in the mouth. And you know what? To quote Mike Tyson's favorite line, everyone's got a game plan until you get punched in the face. And I have a feeling, they used to call Mike the baddest man on the planet. And today, I think he's the baddest 57-year-old on the planet. Like, yes, he's older. I don't like seeing fights between guys with 30 years apart in age. But if you watch his training videos, like, he's scary. His hand speed is still fantastic. His power, like, let me put it to you this way. To any of you guys, if you had to go have a fight tomorrow, who would you rather fight, Jake Paul or Mike Tyson? I like my chances against Jake Paul a lot better than Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson.
What's the payday, though? What's the payday?
I'm taking the fight against Mike Tyson. I'm taking the fight against Mike Tyson.
No, you're not.
You know why? Yeah, absolutely I am. You want to know why? Because Mike Tyson hits you a lot harder. There's a much better chance that you're going to get knocked out much faster from Mike Tyson than you are from Jake Paul.
That's right. It'll be over quicker.
100%. The fight is over much quicker if it's Mike Tyson.
To put a note on what Donnie was saying, with the highlight videos and the videos that are coming out of Mike training right now, TRT and stem cell therapy is a hell of a drugs.
Yeah.
Because Mike looks fantastic.
Yeah. He looks great. It's going to be a hell of a thing.
Don't test him for anything.
No. But now, speaking of, since we're talking about it, and speaking of ridiculousness, a new movie just came out, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if everybody's got a chance to see this, yes or no, but I'm talking about none other than the remake of Roadhouse. Now, I knew that when I got home from my flight from hell, my travel from hell, that there was no better way to spend my morning this morning watching the newest version of Roadhouse. Have you seen it yet, Erin and Matt? Because you look like Matt definitely looks like the kind of person that would hang out in a Roadhouse. Oh, wait, sorry.
I woke up to see the header on my TV this morning advertising Roadhouse starring Jake Gyllenhaal, which is a sentence I really didn't expect to ever hear. So, no, I can't say I've seen it yet.
Oh, no, it's not just starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Oh no, it's starring UFC fighter Conor McGregor. And if that wasn't enough to get you to go and get a ticket and sit down and make some popcorn and watch this piece of, you can also see Post Malone, ladies and gentlemen. Post Malone's a tough guy in this one. Now, Donnie,
I would have been a lot more inclined to see it if I saw Conor McGregor and Post Malone on the poster. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah. Donnie, have you seen it yet?
So here's the thing. Brady tipped me off today that you guys want to talk about this. So I was like, I better watch this stupid thing. So I did throw it up on Amazon Prime, and I took a look. Look, here's the truth of the matter. This film 100% embraces the tone of the original movie. People forget that the original Roadhouse, when it came out, everyone crapped on it. It was hot trash. It's only as the decades have flown by that people look at it like a cult classic. And it's one of those movies that from inception, it straddles the line between garbage and good, right? It just straddles that line. And it's all about perception and people that go, oh, it's campy, it's fun, it pokes fun at itself. And this new one is the same. It's campy, it's over the top, it's goofy. I didn't like the way they used Conor McGregor at all as this secondary villain that gets thrown in the third act. Like, what are you doing? Like, the way that they used him, the way the director threw Conor in is like, you're expecting the audience to pop and go, oh, it's Conor McGregor. But like, if you're not an MMA fan, you don't care. So like the way that they utilized it, I was like, okay, whatever.
Brady, what'd you think of the movie?
I think I've ruined a lot of people's weekends by telling them since Friday to watch Roadhouse. I have told everyone to watch it. I think Conor did a fantastic job playing a coked out Conor. Him doing his best Terminator 2 opening to introduce himself to this movie. If anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, go watch the movie. You'll understand the reference. But him doing his best Arnie impression, I think it was a mix of Arnie. It was a mix of the over-the-top 80s action heroes, you know what I mean? The coke sniffing, drug binging. And he was also like a comic book villain because he was indestructible. I do really like what they did with Conor. I think this movie should be nominated for every award. Razzies, Academy Awards, Grammys, take me to the Tonys. I'll take whatever award that you can give it because it deserves it.
Well,
but I've ruined a lot of people's weekends, and that is a bigger highlight for me.
Listen, we all know that I am a huge fan of pieces of garbage movies.
Yep.
Like the worse, the better. You know what I mean? You give me Basket Case. Hell, Godzilla, schlocky stuff all day long. Horror movies, absolutely. The schlockier, the better. On St. Patrick's Day, I sat down and watched, the entire, and while I was in Vegas, watched pretty much 1 through 7 of the Leprechaun series because, that's what you do on St. Patrick's Day, right? I didn't watch it intently.
These movies are racist,
all
man.
day long.
These are racist movies. I'm Irish.
So I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, this movie is the shittiest movie I've ever seen in my entire life.
What? No. Tell me why.
Okay, first of all, Post Malone playing a tough guy is completely ass backwards.
He's the sweetest guy in the world.
He is the sweetest, most nicest dude in the world. You just want to, he is like a white Bob Marley with nothing but love, peace, and happiness. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden he's a teenage tittied fucking cage fighter. Get the hell out of here with this bullshit. That was horrible. And if I ever see another CGI fight scene in my life, those were just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous looking. Kong versus Godzilla was a more believable looking fight scene. Okay. I think that could take place before any of those fight scenes.
Can I retract? I agree with Chris. This is the worst fucking movie. Actually, now you just went through that. It's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you, Patrice.
No. We live in a world where John Travolta played John Gotti. There are worse movies out there. Okay.
Like fan too.
This is not in the top tier echelon of worst movie. It's bad. It's really bad. And
bad.
Brady, I'm billing you for my time where I had to watch it. But it is not that. Like it's exactly what the original Roadhouse was. It's stupid. And guess what? 20 years from now, people will go, Gyllenhaal was the man.
They probably will.
Time. It needs time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably
It
will.
needs time to ferment. Can you imagine if you're going to a theater one day to watch back-to-back Roadhouses?
Oh. Oh, I need a shower after this episode. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, listening here on any podcast provider, watching on YouTube or SNME Radio.
All right. So before we wrap this whole thing up, and we just got done talking about WrestleMania happening, I'd be remiss because if we're talking about THQ products, we have to talk a little bit about the other big event coming up in the same month, next month, just a couple of weeks, UFC 300. Here's my question, because in this thing that is just completely loaded over the top, why is it that the wrestler of all wrestlers on this card, who is only 5-0, I'm talking about Bo Nickel, why is he on the main card, ladies and gentlemen, and not somebody like Aljamain Sterling or Yuri Prochazka? Like, there's no reason for Bo Nickel to be on that card.
Aljamain on the undercard?
Aljo is on the undercard. Yuri is the main of the prelims. Aljo fight is before that. Like, this whole thing is being kicked off with what is it, Bobby Green and
Bobby Green, Jim Miller.
Jim Miller?
Yeah.
The entire card. Matt Grant.
Hello.
Does Erin watch the UFC?
No, I do not. I will watch it if it's on. I will say that I'm a sucker for, like, once I actually see people getting punched in the face, I am sucked in, but I don't know any of the names you just said. So,
all right. Because just this past weekend, we also had, you talk about one of the reasons that you like women's wrestling so much, right? Or AEW so much is because of the push that they give to the women. WWE does a very good job too. Women are getting much more of a push as being legitimate athletes. And if you watched any of these fights on this past weekend, one of the best to ever do it, a two-time champion in Rose Thug Namajunas, right? Got a big win over a surging Amanda Ribas this past weekend. And the showcasing of women's fights in the UFC has been second to none. The promos they're putting together for these girls, the emphasis that they're putting on their fights, and now you have the preacher's daughter in UFC 13, Holly Holm, she's like the Mickey James of the UFC. You know what I mean? She's been around for a minute. That's right, Donnie. The Rhonda Killer right there. She's welcoming none other than Kayla Harrison into the mix. So I implore you, if you haven't yet, find somebody who's going to help, get a party to go to, order it yourself, do whatever you got to do. Really take a look at the women's side of MMA and the UFC, and you will become a fan very quickly. Trust me on that.
I'll absolutely pick up on that.
Dude, Rose did a fantastic job. So,
oh my God.
What do you think? I know that if you're asking, if you're comparing kind of apples to oranges with wrestling to UFC, but I mean, if we're talking about THQ, if we're talking about the parent company, is April going to be the biggest month ever for that company? With
TKO?
Or TKO, I mean.
I was like, are we making video games?
This man is talking about, he's been playing AEW Fight forever.
He's the only one.
Yeah, I was thinking CTE.
So TKO, yes. No,
TKO.
Under all one banner.
Is April going to be the biggest month ever for that company, knowing that, Crown Jewel happens in a different month?
I'd say buy your stock today because stock prices are going up. They're going to have a massive revenue quarter. Massive.
So then there's the question. Do you think that that's a coincidence or not? Do you think that is kind of a tip of the hat to, some insider trading, so to speak, to tell people straight up, like, get your stocks now?
Yeah, I don't think it's inside secrets that WrestleMania 40 and UFC 300 are happening within a tennis ball throw of each other. I mean, you can just look at the cards of each show and go, wow, that's going to draw. And if you have half a brain, you might want to get in on that ride because there was a time many moons ago when I owned WWE stock, and I wish I still did, man. I wish I still did. Yeah, you too, Brain. But I man, UFC 300, I think is going to be so. I was just talking to Danny O, our friend, earlier today about it, and we were saying, man, can you believe we hosted a UFC 100 party at Dave and Buster's? And now we're at 300. Like, we're old, right? And it's just, it feels crazy to think about that. But the whole card for UFC 300 to me is stacked. Like, it's crazy. I'm so far. I don't even know. Like, if you ask me the same question you asked about WrestleMania, which fight are you most? I don't know. I don't know which fight I'm most excited about. Like, honestly, I can't say because there's so much meat.
What's your favorite? You're stoked? What's the
fight? The fight I'm out of all of them. I mean, obviously, every single one of them, I will be like in the morning. This is like the Super Bowl of UFC.
Yeah,
the way that this thing has been booked. But the fight I'm probably looking most forward to is going to be, because both of these guys deliver every single time, Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway.
Max Holloway,
yeah. Fight of the night.
You know, I mean, and I mean, let's not. I mean, it's the BMF belt, ladies and gentlemen. Huh?
Well, shut out Jamal Hill as well, because I think Jamal Hill is going to shock the world,
dude. I think that Jamal Hill is going to come back and take back his belt as well.
Yep.
But if I'm looking for that excitement level, that fight that you got two guys that are just going to go till one of them can't anymore and have always done that and always deliver, it's Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway.
AMF belt is so fake. I think Eddie Kingston's next in line for it. But that all being said, I really love those two, and Gaethje is the owner of my favorite meme ever on the internet, right? You know the one I'm talking about.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. I don't know if Matt and Erin may not have seen it. There's a photo on Twitter of a dude looking ripped and jacked in a UFC ring, and some pretty blonde girl comments and writes, "I need me a man like this." And Justin Gaethje replies, and he's wearing glasses and he's got his beard growing. He's like, "Hi," and she goes, "No." He's like, "No, literally, it's me."
That's me in the picture.
Yeah.
I have seen that. I do like that meme as well.
Best meme ever. And it also proves I don't know what they want. Say what they want.
Wow. Spoken like a man who's been rejected time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as this roundtable comes to a square and we're about to clean it off, Chris, you got anything you want to plug before we go to commercial and come back here and close the show out?
Listen, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit of local action, right, before we go away as well.
Most definitely.
Because coming up is none other than, let's talk about it right here. Where are we at? As I just bring this up, you get to go away there and you get to come over here, and then we go like this.
Chris working behind the scenes.
We're talking about Destiny Wrestling has the Clash coming up. The name of their show, not the band, ladies and gentlemen. The show is called The Clash. And on this, I mean, Trent Seven is on there. They're doing stuff, NWA, TNA, AEW guys. This is fantastic. Fight or Flight is going to be on this show. So, if you haven't had a chance to go see a Destiny Wrestling show yet, and you are in and or around the Toronto area, go check it out. This one is at the Alliance Banquet Hall, 501 Alliance Avenue, Toronto, Ontario. You can check it out by going to DestinyWrestling.ca or just look them up on the socials. They're not hard to find, man. They are all over the damn place.
Well, and get your tickets, because guess who else is going to be in the house? Kenta.
See, you got to go and give away all the spoilers right there, right?
Well, no, we have it on a poster. See, we get a little thing right there. It's Kenta's face, and it's Kenta versus Trent versus Santana. Get your tickets now. I know that the ringside, I believe, is sold out. VIP, I think there's still some available, but get whatever you can. Just get a ticket now so that you can guarantee that you can get through the door.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
It's going to be a hell of a show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking forward to it. So, this is the Law Live Audio Wrestling. We're going to take a very quick break. I'd like to thank Donnie De Silva from the Godfathers of Podcasting, my partner in crime on that show, from joining us here. I would also like to thank Erin Grant. I'm sorry that you had to take that last name. It wasn't Matt's choice. He had no choice in it either. But these are the things that we do for love. Erin,
well, make sure you check out their show, Collision Catchup, on SNME Radio every Sunday morning. They put out a great show. So if you want to catch up with the AEW, that's the way to do it.
Erin is the John Cena of the Grant family. She's clearly in a Make-A-Wish over there.
No, you didn't.
Oh, thanks, guys, for being a part of the Law Roundtable. Listeners, we will be back after this.
1 second here, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you have a podcast? Are you looking for high-profile guests for your show but don't know how to get in touch with them? Go to podstars.net. That's podstars.net. For less than $9 a month, you can get access to a huge selection of celebrity guests, like wrestling superstar The Blue Meanie, to musicians like Marty Ray, and even actors like Tom Arnold. Podstars is the place to go to connect with everything you need for your podcast. So go to podstars.net with a Z to get signed up. At podstars.net, you'll be happy that you did.
And just like that, another one is in the books. Man, it's good to be back. We miss you for a week, but you know what? We pick up right where we left off. Brady, thank you so much once again, as usual. You got anything other than your hairline you'd like to plug?
No, but I know I just cut this big mop off and you just called it out. My hairline is starting to go. It's finally time. I'm 40 years old this year. So, I'm not surprised that it took this long, but thanks for making me feel like an old bald bastard.
You make me feel like a natural woman. Excellent. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you do go like, subscribe, hit all of those buttons you're supposed to. Y'all ain't new to this stuff. Enjoy it on Spotify, enjoy it on iHeartRadio, enjoy it on Apple Podcasts, or wherever. Just enjoy it. Enjoy it like that sock that you find under the bed. I am Chris Tidwell. That is Brady Wedham. This is The Law, and we are OUT out of here. Tuck your chin.